Super. All right. So I'm here, Barbara Unwald with Tribe, and I'm here with Arturo Enriquez. He's also with Tribe Leadership, and he's an expert in business strategy and acquisitions, as well as leadership and emotional intelligence. And a topic we wanted to kind of explore with him today was the idea of emotional intelligence. And, you know, contextually, we're dealing with a situation now where families are in close contact 24/7, and working people, a lot of working people are now remote and trying to still collaborate effectively. And you know, it's obvious that emotions are running really high and taking their toll and having the impact on families, on working relationships and workplaces as well. So we're seeing things like, you know, uncertainty and fear and anxiety and stress and irritability and frustration, and all these things are showing up. And so I guess sort of the question is, how could a conscious or conscientious practice of emotional intelligence help or lack of it hinder in this kind of context? Maybe you could.
Yeah, no, it's great. You know, let's first understand emotional intelligence. You know, at its core, it deals with, you know, there's really four facets to it, divided into two: the self, and then meaning a relationship with oneself, and then a relationship with others. And with the relationship with oneself, you know, first being aware, you know, understanding your emotion, understanding what you're feeling. And then how do I manage? So it's self-awareness and self-management, right? So that's the first part, and it's all about you being able to understand, one, that you're feeling angry, or is it really anger, or is it sadness masked as anger? Because that'll help you manage the emotion before, you know, it turns into a behavior, and that behavior affects you or it affects other people, right? And then the second aspect of emotional intelligence is how do we have awareness with others in other relationships? So it's social awareness. So the first one is self-awareness. Now it's being able to identify other people's emotions, other people's moods, and then manage that relationship, right? So being able to regulate that relationship. So again, it's the relationship is stable, and you don't lose the dynamic of the relationship, causing unnecessary consequences, right? So in a nutshell, you know, understanding these four aspects of emotional intelligence, specifically now during these times, is extremely important. It may sound very simple and basic, but it isn't. It isn't, because sometimes we find ourselves mad and already in the action. You know, I'll use myself as an example. I may, given the circumstances and confinement and the stress and the lack of social and just the abnormality of what we live in what we live in today, I may snap at my daughters unnecessarily because of something work related, because I'm in this new environment, and I have to, I'm already in the behavior. I've already lost awareness and certainly lost regulation, self-management of my emotions. So that would be an example of how I did not use emotional intelligence.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, so what are some things that you suggest we could do? If, you know, if there's one thing around that you think would be the thing that could have the most positive impact for people around this, in terms of any of those aspects of emotional intelligence, either managing yourself or, you know, recognizing and managing with others, what can you give our listeners maybe some place to look or something to sort of work with?
Yeah. So, you know, through cognitive behavior, well, before cognitive behavior, and I'm throwing that in there, I'm going to explain. You know, we're led to believe that our behaviors are caused by our emotions, and they are, right? We feel something, and therefore we react or act. But before that, and this is where cognitive behavior theory and therapy comes in, is that before that, your thoughts can actually control your emotions. So be aware that you can change your state and your mood by thinking, and just give you an example. There's many times when you think about a negative or a positive event, and that thought alone creates either anger or sadness if it's a negative event, or happiness and joy if it's a positive event.
Right.
And all you're doing is imagining it in your mind, and suddenly you've generated the emotion, right? So it's very important to understand that thought comes before the emotion, right? And then comes the behavior, and then the outcome, of course. And so it's important to understand that we do have a lot of power in our mind to regulate our emotions, for desired outcomes. So I think that's, from an awareness standpoint, I think that's important to know.
Yeah.
And then there's another thing that's pretty kind of cool. It's called the 90-second rule. And so physiologically, when you feel an emotion, your brain emits chemicals, and those chemicals are what make you have an emotion. And physiologically and neurologically, that lasts approximately 90 seconds, right? So when your mind sends the chemicals for you to feel angry or for you to feel happy, it lasts 90 seconds from a chemical standpoint, physiological. But after that, it's up to you. So now again, the mind takes over. So you choose what happens after 90 seconds. So it's normal to feel angry, but then it's up to you to continue that anger.
Right.
That joy, if you feel joy. And so it's just to be aware of that. When I first learned about that, I'm like, wow, we feel something, but then it's really up to me to keep feeling that, which that feeling is going to then create a behavior, and then that behavior is going to create an outcome, right?
So using, sort of to sum up, I guess, to be aware of the power of your mind and to really exercise that, use this time to exercise that a lot, and start working with our thoughts more conscientiously. That's a great tip.
Be aware that you have that control.
Yeah, that's great awareness to have, and a good time to be practicing it as well. Well, thanks very much, Arturo, for those insights and for that information, and look forward to talking to you more about that kind of stuff going forward.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.